All right, we're back on We're Live, pal. Double G here with Andrew Zarian. And Andrew, as you can see, I'm in the Christmas spirit here with my ugly sweater, my 49ers ugly sweater, the 10-4 San Francisco 49ers, representing them with my mug as well. But it is the Christmas week, and I want to hear about it, man. What are the kids asking for Christmas? Like, what's number one on the list here?
It's everything. It's everything you could imagine. My son loves like Batman, so like everything Batman, everything comic books for him.
Oh, that's easy for you. That's right,
easy,
right in your wheelhouse.
Easy. Really my wheelhouse. My daughter is really into gymnastics right now because she takes gymnastics, so she wants gymnastics stuff. It is, I feel like it was so much more simpler when I was younger because there was always like that hot commodity that everybody wanted. Now it's like there's like 5,000 million different things these kids are interested in. So it's not like, like we were all into wrestling. The reason why I got into wrestling is because I had cousins and I went to their house and they had these guys,
Yeah.
And I was like, who doesn't want a male stripper as a toy? Who doesn't want this? So I got into it and that was the thing. Everybody did one summer, one year, everybody wanted wrestling toys, and the other year you wanted the X-Men figures, and the other year, it's how it was. So right now my wife did all of it. So I'm very lucky with that. The only thing I'm struggling now is buying everybody else gifts. That's my big struggle.
So you brought up a really interesting point there with wrestling related Christmas gifts when we were kids. What like did your wrestling figure collection just explode one Christmas because your parents went in on some figures? Because mine did, but mine were actually older than those figures that you have. Mine were the big rubber ones where I think I got like 10 of them, in one Christmas. But what are some wrestling related gifts that you received over the years that you can remember?
Dude, I'll tell you right now, the best one had to, when I was a kid, had to have been the WWF ring, the blue one. The blue ring with the steps and the belt. I mean, that was like the ultimate gift, right? And then probably later on was the video games. It probably was, I would say, WWF WrestleMania 2000 on N64, which is, interesting to talk about now, almost 30 years later, because essentially the AEW video game that's coming out is kind of loosely based on the gameplay of how much fun and easy that series of games were.
Yeah, but does it have to look the same? That's my problem.
I know, it kind of does look the same.
Can it look a little better than what it?
You know what? I don't want. I'm not. I know this is veering off the subject, but I don't really like. I don't want a live simulation game because I'm old now, and I have not played the SmackDown games or any or the 2K games in years. So for me, it's like I'm behind. Make it easy for me. Make it fun. Now, could the graphics get a little better? I'm cool with the cartoonish graphics. Just, improve a little bit. We'll see. I mean, we don't even have a release date for this thing, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so here's mine, and people can actually look this up on Google here. If you do a search for Hulk Hogan weightlifting set, you are taken to an eBay link. This thing is $400 on eBay.
Oh my
God. It is a box of two. They're probably 2.5 or 5 pound dumbbells. There's like a little workout manual, and there's a tape. And from my recollection, what the tape played was the song that just went dun 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 dun. Like it was just like for 10 minutes long, just that song, just going and going and going. That's my recollection of this weight set. But yeah, I think I want to say Christmas of '86 or something was when I got that weightlifting set from Santa.
This was a big hit for me. My Wrestle Buddy. This is my original Wrestle Buddy. So what year is this? From '89? Has to be. Tonka made it. Like, it has to be like 89, 90. This was a huge hit. I mean, we all had this. I never wanted the Warrior one, but I wanted the Ted DiBiase one because he was in his green outfit, not the black outfit. That was like a big deal. And then the second set, you had LOD and you had like everybody else. But like this was it for me. This was the best thing. I mean, like my son now does like suplexes on this thing, which is really cool to see, you know?
No, that's awesome. Okay, so we might as well talk about some stuff. Though I don't think I'm going to get any wrestling related gifts today. I did show my wife a photo. I was like, I don't like any real wrestling gear. Like, I don't like the shirts. I don't, I just wear the old school ones that I wear. But I said, there's this hoodie, and it would really match nicely with my patent leather Jordan 11s. And it's a sweatshirt called.
Hold on, which Jordan 11s do you got? Well, hold on, which ones?
Hold on, let me get them. Oh, these are the newest ones I got.
Okay, I got to see these because I have a Jordan 11 collection at this point here.
So it's
those are mine, the same ones I got. Yeah,
the patent leather low 11s.
Yeah, I love those.
For the 11s, for me, if it has the leather upper, that's the one that I like. I don't like the meshy upper because sometimes it can snag on stuff and then it doesn't look as nice. But yeah, so I was like, there's this swoosh. And so she's like, what does "we the ones" mean? And I was like, I don't know. Everyone else is the twos and we the ones. And she's just like, I don't really get it. But anyway, she's like, nope, too late. You told me too late. I'm not getting. So I was like, if you see a package of a sweatshirt show up on the doorstep, don't get too surprised. But yeah, wrestling gifts are fantastic. But let's move on. Let's actually talk about some pro wrestling that has been going on. So I don't know. This was about August. This was sometime in the summer. One Andrew Zarian on this very show made the mention that Jonah Rock, a.k.a. Bronson Reed, was possibly coming back to WWE. And it happened last night on Monday Night Raw during the Miz and Dexter Lumis ladder match. So you're going to give yourself a little back pat for that? Nice job there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it was pretty easy because I was told, we really want to have him back. Listen, I think when he was released also, there was a lot of conversation as to why certain people were released. There was a lot of people disagreeing with a lot of the releases. He was one of those because he was very dominant in NXT. They were building him up, obviously. And they were going to do a lot with him on the main roster. And then he got cut. And that was it. But, he was on that list. Karrion was on that list. There's still, I mean, Tegan, we've seen people come back, obviously. But
you sense that there's more?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Because I don't want to name the names, but I can tell you that, people that are possibly leaving AEW or want to leave AEW, I know that there's a lot of not that there's contract tampering happening or anything like that. I have no idea, but I do know that they are very interested in rebuilding a lot of established talent that was let go. Especially, like I'll throw a name, and I'm just throwing this out there. I don't want it to be reported, but like Andrade is a name that they let go for whatever reason, but would they benefit by having Andrade on TV? Yeah, 100% they would. Malachi's another one.
How would they use Andrade any differently than they used him in the past, which was poorly?
Well, how is AEW using him? I think poorly.
AEW is not using him greatly at all, but I imagine some of that is because of his very outspoken wanting to go back to WWE. Like, why would you push the guy, right?
Well, you know what it is, though? You have to also remember who's in charge now, right? Not you, but everybody, right? He's a Hunter guy.
Yeah,
Hunter found him. Hunter took that mask off of, Hunter. He put him in that stupid tuxedo outfit for a while in NXT, and it wasn't going anywhere, and it really got, and then he blew up. The guy is super talented. He has size. He has the look.
Yeah, I'm a giant fan. I completely agree with you about that because during his NXT run, I thought he was awesome. I was like, this guy is so great, and we need that, that Hispanic star, the Mexican star. But Vince didn't see him that way, and then, like you said, in AEW, he hasn't really knocked him dead either. But Yeah, I mean, it's all about who will get behind you, and
Listen,
Hunter
they had three.
Paul.
They had two really big Hispanic stars, and they put them in as a tag team, Los Lotharios, right?
Yeah, he could just immediately be put with those guys too if you did
Yeah.
bring him in.
But I think it's very interesting when you look at this roster and you look at what they've been doing and you look at the people they brought back, and some of them are not working, obviously, in that company. It's a discussion. We saw the reports that some of these people are not working. They're just sitting in limbo right now. And I think Hunter's trying to figure out, okay, what's the next piece for next year? But there are key people that he would love to have back in that company.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they're available or not, that's a whole separate issue. But as far as the discussions go with, okay, what's the focus? How do they want to do this? I know for a fact NXT, they want to revamp it this year. 100% they want to revamp it. It's not going to be the same old developmental that we saw with the with the Nickelodeon set that we got for like a year. They want to revamp this thing into becoming something that they could tour with and make some sort of money with if they can. And to have people that maybe, it's no longer about getting them ready for TV. I think the approach that they want to take here is, okay, who do we have that could become a big driver for this show? Because they got a 2-hour time slot on USA. And USA's expectation is to be in the 600s to 700s as far as the viewership goes.
Here's a question.
Maybe. Yeah.
So NXT, what does WWE get from USA for NXT a year? Like 20 million or something?
I can't remember the number. I literally had this discussion with somebody last week over dinner, and I can't remember what that number. It's not like a crazy high number, but it is. They are getting paid for it.
Because what I wonder is, and this is how I've always looked at NXT, which is it's on TV. It's not developmental to me because it's on television and they are making money with this show. So I'm going to grade it like it's a pro wrestling show. I'm not going to give it any benefit of the doubt because it has younger workers. But I wonder if some of that drives to go like, our deal is coming up on USA and on Fox. Now, I don't know if the NXT deal is up at the same time as Raw is, but like they may just go, if we can raise these ratings a little bit, maybe we get more. Maybe we get 60 million a year for this show, which costs nothing to produce because we produce it in our in our home gym, and the talent gets paid nothing. Really, I'm talking about the actual NXT talent, not the folks who come back from the main roster. That's like a big moneymaker for them, and it costs them almost nothing to produce. So I wonder if that kind of backing up what you're saying.
I mean, the cost of production is astronomically low. Bottom of the barrel, like Showtime boxing, for example, right? Like not a main fight, nothing big, is around $400,000 to produce, and that's like the cheapest. So imagine what AEW is. I know AEW is upping their production. They're going to be doing some changes in January, so that there's more, cost to production there. But NXT, you're right. It's in their warehouse. It costs them nothing. Those cameras are fixed. You're not paying top dollar for the producers. This is a learning place. So as far as having a 2-hour time slot on USA that costs you very little, and it gets your product out there and you're getting 700,000 viewers, I think that's fantastic for them. But, what would it mean to a guy like Ricochet to go down there and have a run, right? We see the New Day with the titles over there. That's not traditional. That's not developmental.
Yeah.
So the approach is shifting here with that company. I think this is all going to play in part. So, yeah, I think you're going to see names that that I don't know if you're going to be surprised, but you're going to see some established names return to WWE and possibly NXT. I think NXT, they're going to get some names.
Yeah. And if people want to see the clip of Andrew Zarian talking about Bronson Reed going back to WWE, it's retweeted on our Twitter page at WLPF4W, and it was found by MG Geek. He like found it fast too.
I keep him in a vault and I bring him out for these moments and I put him right back in. That's how it works with him.
I felt like it was like an hour or less, and he just had the clip ready to go.
I was like, "You got it." He's like, "I'll find it. No worries. I'm on it."
Okay, so what do you think about this storyline that they are pushing on all WWE TV? And it was like more. They pushed it on Raw yesterday. Then they even pushed it on SmackDown the week before, though. That it didn't come out until the end of the show. But that just shows they're using Raw to push this storyline as well, which is John Cena comes back to SmackDown on December 30th to tag team with Kevin Owens against Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. And Dave last night on Wrestling Observer Radio said that they've moved 4,000 tickets since that announcement. 4,000 tickets. And some of these AEW shows for Dynamite aren't even selling 4,000 tickets. And John Cena by himself for this giant match against, what is the best storyline going today with the Bloodline. 4,000 tickets in just a handful of days. That's amazing.
Yeah, actually, let's see. Yeah, that's tremendous. They've done. Listen, he's a big draw. He's one of those names to a lot of people. He's the Hogan of that era. They grew up on John Cena. He is Hulk Hogan. If you're in your early 20s, that's who you had. Like, I had Hogan, I had Warrior. That's what we grew up on. But
yeah,
and then you had Austin and Rock. But the reality is, he is as big as those guys, if not bigger to some people. So I'm not surprised that he's moving tickets. Two people that came out of that era in WWE that were very that their draws. It's him and Punk, and we saw that AEW have tremendous success with CM Punk being on a card. I still think they would have tremendous success if he was on the card. They would be selling out better. I don't know if they're going to sell 4,000 more seats. Probably not, because he was there for a while. But there's definitely a dip on the AEW side. So you have two guys, one not as popular as the other one, but still a draw, I think, for Cena. And Cena has a mainstream crossover. WWE loves that. He's a Disney guy now. He's a DC guy now.
Yeah, Warner Brothers.
So I think am I surprised 4,000? Yeah, I'm a little surprised considering it's the end of the year and things kind of slow down. But just further proves the power of John Cena and the magnitude of his draw. When people ask, why was this guy on top for so long? Why didn't they turn? This is exactly why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he means a lot on a on the basis of, like, he comes back for like the one or two big matches a year. He means a lot to them. He means more than Brock does on a show to show basis, for sure. Probably only third to Rock and Austin, right? As far as who is what his box office power is on a match per match basis. So and Dave and I talked about this a couple of different times, and you and I have had this conversation too, which is WrestleMania, if the stars are aligned and they can bring everybody in who they want to bring in, Rock and Austin included, and we'll segue to talking about Rock here in a second, this is going to be the biggest, most star-studded WrestleMania ever, I think.
Yeah. It all depends if they could get the deals in place. We saw Austin last year, which I don't think anybody expected that. You know what's amazing? Dave is the one that reported that story, that Steve Austin is getting ready to have a match. And
on Valentine's Day.
Is that when he released it?
I think he said he was at dinner on Valentine's Day and he got a text and then he reported it that night. That's why he remembers the exact date.
Okay. And guess what happened? Everybody came out and they said, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. You got fooled, Dave. Even to the day of, I was getting tweets from idiots saying, your boss doesn't know anything. I'm using quotes. I'm using hand quotes because that's literally one of the tweets that I got. And I'm like, my boss, Tony? Not Khan. Leader? I'm like, Tony Leader knows nothing. But I was like, and then he showed up, and you know what? All these people, all these fools had egg on their face. Dave is the one that broke that story. I think if they are, well, I was told two things. One was, if there's any way you could go to Rumble, you should. And I don't get those too often. Once in a while I get those. And the other one was, you're definitely going to WrestleMania, right? I'm like, yeah, well, what are you doing with Dwayne? Yeah. He literally said that. And the answer is always the same. Everybody wants to make this work this year. There's no, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. There's none of that exists anymore with getting this match to go. You have created, or not so much them, but us, we've created this little buzz. social media, the fan base, everybody wants to see that match. How do
Yes.
you not? And how many times did I get an opportunity to do something like this? What was the last match that people really, a dream match that people wanted to see? Probably that we never got is Austin and Goldberg. That's one. Austin and Hogan. That's another. I mean, there's a handful of these matches, but if you are in the position that you're in and you have the amount of money that you have, so now it's not a financial issue, you got to put that match together. You got to get Austin in to do something. You got to get Cena to do something. You got to get Lesnar in there. You have to get Dwayne in there because here's the reality. They are a celebrity fight sport at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It is, they want celebrityhood, they want star-studdedness, they want all of that. It's a very different philosophy than 10 years ago in that company where they would think you don't want to take that top spot from somebody that's not on your roster or not a top guy or whatever, a full-time guy. Now they don't care. They got your money. They got Peacock doing this. They want this to be a big story. They want it all over the press. How are you going to do that for WrestleMania? By having Rock wrestle Roman, by having Steve Austin come back? These are all things that they're planning on doing. I was always told, like, well, yeah, we'd like Dwayne, but I did not hear any buts. There's no buts here. It's if he wants to do it, it's happening. It's just a matter of does he want to do it because he has to do it at 100%. There's no doing like, looking. They know he'll look great. They know he could do all this stuff, but he wants to be able to perform at that level, especially with Roman. So can he perform at that level? I don't know. I have no idea. Neither does anybody else.
Okay, let's say you get Rock to show up on, I don't know, whichever day for WrestleMania, Saturday or Sunday. What if you could get 2 days with him? Because they have this thing called the WWE Hall of Fame, which has been really terrible for the last few years when it used to be one of the coolest weekends or one of the coolest nights for WrestleMania weekend. Dwayne's not in the WWE Hall of Fame yet. They've been waiting.
He's not, no.
That would be a nice little twofer to get him to
waiting
do that
when
show.
He buys it. When he buys the company, that's when they'll do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But that would be fun to because it would instill a ton of interest back in that show, which no one really cares about anymore. So that would be kind of fun. The Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, who just broke the record for touring business for one single year, something like 430 million or something like that for his tour. Lots of guys. Brock Lesnar could come back. Austin, Cena, and with their current Bloodline storyline being as hot as it is, I think it all kind of if it peaks all at the right, we could be in for something good in April this year. I'm kind of crossing my fingers because I like it when the business end of stuff and the creative end of stuff all kind of work together and make wrestling really fun. And I don't know, I'm into it. All right, let's talk about something that we have not, you and I together, haven't had a chance to really talk about, but it is a giant story here. Is this Vince McMahon thing about Vince wanting back in? That information came out on the same day that the Vince McMahon documentary on Vice was debuting, and
by design, by the way.
Well, I mean, it looks like whoever's leaking all this stuff to the Wall Street Journal, wanted to time it, and because it sounds like, it seems like I would imagine they don't want Vince back, so they're trying to cut that one off. But what do you think about that whole thing with this crazy old man just wanting to keep involving himself in something that is actually working better than before he left? I wonder if that's kind of getting his goat.
But here's my question to you. Do you think he sees it that way?
I think he believes, if I were him, and there's no way I would be him, I think he believes that Hunter is just running his playbook. That's what I think he thinks.
I would say mostly, but I don't believe he thinks it's headed in the right direction.
I mean, but we just talked about where they may be peaking. Like, he literally has to be blind to not see that, right?
Well, financial. Are you talking financial or are you talking like creative? Financially,
Well, I
they're doing
mean,
great,
they're
right?
all it's sort of going in the same direction together, right? Like WrestleMania is their biggest weekend. They're on they're going to sell more tickets for these two WrestleMania shows than they did in Dallas last year. They're going to get tons of publicity if Rock comes back. Everything is moving in the right direction as long as things work. I
I
don't see how he couldn't see that.
I don't see him coming in as the CEO. But, as a
What would he
consultant,
do? I mean, he's probably
as
consulting
a
now.
producer, I mean, I would imagine he is. Yeah, but like Royal Rumble's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to be,
Shane.
WrestleMania's coming up. Well, we tried Shane. It didn't work. But you know what I mean? Like, okay, it's not. I don't think it's going to be like, well, Vince is back. I think he's going to like slowly get in. He's driving around that building in his Bentley all day long. Apparently, he's honking his horn. He throws garbage out, just causes a muck.
Okay, what if Vince goes, all right. I'm not going to come back, but you need to put me in the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
I don't think he wants to be in it. Isn't that always the thing? He doesn't want to. For a guy, he has all these like weird rules about himself, which is I always find fascinating for a guy that's been on television and in the spotlight for like forever. Most of his 40 years or so. He really is not a I need to be on TV guy. So I find that interesting. Listen, I think the company's doing much better, but he controls he still has a lot of power in that company. You don't have 80-something% of the stock and not have the voting power. And, if WWE is looking to sell or anything like that, you're going to very much want Vince on your side.
Okay, now I've been watching some 98 Raw, so I got Vince Russo booking on my brain right now, and none of it really makes sense. What if,
bro?
What if the Hall of Fame this year is one night only? Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club, and they just bring all the people. Kind of what they did with the Undertaker last year, where it was just building, telling stories about Taker. Now it's telling stories about Vince, and then he gets the one. He gets to pull one person up to actually do the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club, and he's like, we just rehired this guy, William Regal. And he's got to do it again.
Oh, now he comes up. He's got to do it again. I don't know what the hell they'll do. It's a wacky company. It's not a traditional. I mean, they're very corporate now for sure, but I could tell you that there are. I could say that there are people that you would think that would want Vince back. Do not want him back. It's been a much better work scenario for them without Vince being there.
They don't got to worry about being yelled at, right? They don't be worried about being talked down to.
I'm not talking about like Michael Cole not wanting him back to get yelled at. I'm saying like key people. Like not that Michael Cole's not a key person. I all the respect to Michael Cole because I think he's been doing much. I like this version of Michael Cole. The last
what I would love
has been very good.
I've always said, because people have always asked me, like, how come you don't try and work for WWE? I was like, why would I? I like the company that I'm working for. But I would like to be hired. If I ever worked for them, I would like to be hired in one role and one role only. And that is the person who passes Michael Cole notes so that he sounds halfway smart about other things going on in professional wrestling and wrestling history.
That's a good gig.
That would be my role.
Yeah.
I'll just be passing him notes, or I'll be in his headset. Okay, yeah. They wrestled once in New Japan, and then he's got to tell the story of the history of what's going on.
They need to compile a like series of all the times Michael Cole has had to call wrestling without Vince in his ear, and you could call like Michael Cole Unplugged. I'm stealing that from Sandman in our chat room. Michael Cole Unplugged on Laserdisc. And it's just Michael Cole's best plays. Michael Cole in Japan. Michael Cole calling an ECW match. Michael Cole. I mean, just random Michael Cole moments, And I don't. He never called an ECW match, but maybe he did in ECW. I don't know. But anytime that he was not in his ear, I'm into it.
No, I'm digging. I'm digging the chat here. So, yeah, I like I like that. There's some wacky ideas going on in there that I will not repeat.
I like that. Michael Cole Unplugged.
Yeah, and
It's
somebody
a
from
2-box
France.
set. Get it now.
Somebody from France said that they're hanging out with us. So I love it on Twitch. Okay,
Cool.
so did you watch this documentary that Brian and Dave were also on?
Yes, I did.
What'd you
I
think?
loved seeing Dave and Brian on there. I thought Russo looked great on there. I think he came off positive, opposed to, like the negativity that he gets generally. Not my opinion. I'm just stating before he yells at me in my DM.
You know the one thing he didn't say though, which is his
What?
go-to line.
Bro,
If I could be honest with you, I bet you he said it, and then they just eliminated it.
They took
every
it
time
out?
that he said
listen,
it. Yeah.
I say listen a lot. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like a Northeast thing, and I try to cut
you
it
and Max
out.
Caster. Yeah, it's you and Max Caster.
Listen. I get it from my dad. It's like a Persian thing. He'll be like, listen, all the time. Listen. I thought, Dave and Brian were great. I did not care for the documentary. I don't think it wasn't at the same level as, and I love those guys. They do a good job. The Tales of the Territory, I did not really get into.
I have like almost all of them still left on my DVR.
I just couldn't get into it. I thought Dark Side of the Ring was great. I got very much into that. I thought generally all their episodes were solid. I can't remember like a terrible one, but it was a lot of reused footage and clips, and it was like a very not a deep dive whatsoever. No. And were they playing it safe? I don't know. But they didn't really give me any big revelations that I didn't know of. But if you don't know the Vince McMahon story, and everything that happened over the last couple months, maybe you found it interesting. I was actually surprised by the lack of oomph that it had.
It was lazy to me. When you use so much of your previous clips and content, that means you don't have anything. And they were trying to shoehorn every little piece of Dark Side into this story so that they didn't have to do any original reporting, which is it's their right. It's their footage, right? It's their work.
Yeah, but listen, you got Dave Meltzer on there. You got Brian Alvarez. You have Vince Russo, a guy that worked with him very closely. Vince is not afraid to speak up against, and say things that aren't popular about Vince Russo about Vince McMahon. Same thing with Dave, and same thing with Brian. I mean, very different people, but still very comfortable being honest about how they feel. And they didn't really use a lot of it. They like the buzz phrases. They really chopped it up. I don't know if it's different production. I don't know if a different person was involved. I don't think it was terrible. It just wasn't for me.
I do have a little bit of insight in this. I talked to somebody who was sort of tangentially related to it, and he said that originally it was going to be a little bit different, and they were going to deep dive a little bit more into like early in his life, or at least that was one of the ideas. And the idea that they chose was not necessarily the one that he thought what was for the best. But it is what it is, and there was a lot of people who didn't want to do it as well, who did not want to be interviewed for this thing for whatever reason. There's a laundry list of folks who were asked and who did not do it. So I think some of that was that maybe they thought that they didn't have enough star power to do it the way that they originally thought. But, the person who comes out as the star of this thing, I think, and it's not because I enjoy this person as a human and I'm essentially on his website right now, but Brian Alvarez is going to get asked to do a lot more stuff if people are watching this thing closely.
Well, he's great.
Was awesome. He's got
Brian was
baby
really good.
face. The other thing is Brian is
Isn't it crazy that Brian is like 76 years old? Isn't that the most wild fact about Brian?
Brian is a professional orator, right? He's been doing podcasts and audio since at least daily since like 2005, or at least almost daily. The guy is so good at not saying not pausing awkwardly because he's trying to think. He can think and speak at the same time. And for television, he came off really well, and I was so impressed with him. And I thought he was like the best person on the whole thing. And that's someone who was like really close friends with Dave. And I think Dave would tell you the same thing, that Brian was the best of the bunch.
I thought Brian was fantastic. See, I just ummed you. After you told me. I've been listening to Brian since I was 16 years old. You know, I come from the school of Wrestling Observer Radio on IATA. That, Howard Stern, and Leo Laporte, my three influences in broadcasting. So it's always great to see Brian on there. It's also great to see Dave, because I do this every time, dude. So I was watching it with Jess. And, I partake a little bit, and I get a little stoned every now and then. And I look at my wife. I'm like, look, it's Brian. Look, it's Dave. Every time she's like, you just said that like 5 minutes ago. I'm like, but it's great that they're on TV. I love to see them on TV. We need more Dave. And I go in this whole thing, and I tell the whole story about how I connected my tape deck and recorded the IATA shows. I do this every time. She was so fed up, she walked out the door.
Oh. I was actually interested in what she thought about the doc.
She did not like it either. She thought it was. Okay. She said that there was no substance, and she knows. She's lived this for the last 6 months with us. The whole process. But she loves Dark Side of the Ring. For someone that's not a wrestling fan, I get a ton of my friends' wives that are not wrestling fans that like the series, because it's done like a true crime series more than anything else. And that's a great genre. I'm big into true crime, and I think it's really popular now. I just think this lacked. You know what this reminded me of? Outside of Brian and Dave and some of the interviews, it was more like an A&E, biography series than anything else. Like, remember the old biography that they used to do in the 90s? I felt that it was more in line with a A&E biography than it was a Dark Side of the Ring.
Well, okay, so let's go apples to apples here. WWE and A&E just did a bunch of docs, right? I mean, we saw all those. Did you find this Vince McMahon one on the same wavelength, worse, better than the general A&E ones that we saw over the last couple years?
The production on the A&E ones were better, obviously,
way better,
because they had footage and everything. But I don't know. I gotta check back the A&E ones. I was down on it. I thought even stuff that they did with Vince on Dark Side of the Ring, like any time that they showed a video or like a picture. One of the greatest photos is him in a Speedo from like 1982. I saved that. I swear to God, I cropped it and I saved it. It's on my desktop. I swear to you, I'm not even joking. He's on a boat.
What
I cropped it. I zoomed in and I enhanced. That's what I mean by cropping. I upscaled it. But it's like, that photo, and the way that it was somebody's book. I forgot. I think it might have been Hogan or somebody. Like it was in like a old school photo album, and they literally took a photo of it. And I'm like, who has this in a photo album and why?
WWE's table book of photos coming out in 2023.
Like, can you, like, I would, I don't have pictures of Dave Meltzer in a Speedo jacked up from like 30 years ago sitting on my cocktail table. Maybe I should. I don't know. I think I should. Maybe you do. I don't know. It was Linda Hogan. There you go. It was a Hogan. And how bizarre is that? It was Linda Hogan's photo album.
Oh, my gosh. That made it even creepier. I didn't think it could be any creepier, and you just made it creepier.
It'd be great if it was one of the Nasty Boys. That would have been creepier.
Oh, my gosh. All right. We had a little fun there with that story, but it's Vince, man. You gotta have fun with it. Okay, so let's move on to AEW stuff. And, I was really watching this MJF match with Ricky Starks very closely. And the reason why I was watching so closely is because, part of being a champion, especially in a pro wrestling industry today, where wrestling matches, the expectation is that the matches are better than they've been, right? As far as, the what the fans want and what fans are tuning in for. And one small criticism of MJF over the years is that maybe his wrestling wasn't up to par with his speaking. And I think he sort of took that to heart, and he's become a much better professional wrestler since those criticisms were out there. And so I watched this match with Ricky Starks closely because now MJF has kind of got to be the main event guy, right? He's got to keep it up. He's got to be the top guy from cutting promos. And he's got to be the top guy wrestling in these main events. And I wouldn't say he knocked it out of the park with an A+, but I would give him a B+ for sure. I thought that was a really good match. Ricky Starks is a fantastic babyface. MJF carried his own in the ring. And I was happy to see it. I was a little worried, but I thought at the end of the day, he did a really good job in that match.
Yeah, he did a great job. I was not impressed because he's fantastic. I think he's going to have a long line of consistently great matches because right now the eyes are on him. It's a lot of pressure. He's 26 years old. He's the world heavyweight champion in that company, and that company needs a top champion. So. Yes. I think I hope that it works. Let me ask you this. Hangman's run. What did you think of that as world champion? Do you think it was
not as impressed?
Do you think it hurt him in any way? Do you think his stock went down a little bit?
I think that Hangman, his character was not the character of what you normally see as a top guy. Like he's a little bit more like sensitive and emotional cowboy. Like that's kind of what it was. And I'm not saying that we can't have that because wrestling fans, will embrace anything that's good. But I don't know. I don't know if he was necessarily booked as strongly. I think we were all sort of waiting for CM Punk to beat him.
Yeah. He came in, he got a title run at a really bad time. That MJF stuff was going on. He didn't have a long list of top opponents because of injuries. And I was curious. I was asking, I really didn't have an opinion of it. I think it could have been a lot better than it was. But, to kind of go back to MJF, I think it's really going to be beneficial for him to have some top guys to work with because you don't want another, kind of mid-run, to use a term that he uses. I don't think we're going to get that. MJF is fantastic. I'm very hopeful that he gets this is going to work out. I know that a lot of people are, especially and also WWE kind of needs it to work out too, right? If they want him.
Yep.
What's better for you, to have a guy that was a dominant world champion that you threw all this money to and he came over and he becomes a dominant player now, or do you bring him in as, a mediocre world champion? What does that do to his stock? I see this working. It also depends on who's going to take that title off of him and when. Because he needs a long run. He can't have a 2-month run.
The Hangman comparison is a really good one, and I'm glad you brought him up because I think the world of Hangman as a wrestler. I think he's excellent in the ring. His character sometimes can leave a little bit to be desired, but then again, on Wednesday, I thought he cut an excellent promo about giving some background story as to why he was so mad at Moxley. He couldn't remember his son's name for a little while. That's what he's going to remember about being knocked out. I thought that was good. But it's one of those things where I think Hangman's second run is going to be so much better. He's going to learn from the things that maybe didn't work. He'll be stronger. He'll sort of learn a little bit how to maybe not get I feel like he kind of got eaten up a little bit by Punk in some scenarios as well.
Definitely.
And they didn't like each other.
Listen,
so that's the other thing, right?
I actually, in my mind, if I were to compare Hangman, like I see him as like a Bret Hart type guy, right? I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe it's the cowboy thing because Bret Hart was a cowboy. People don't realize this. He started off as a cowboy. He was a cowboy. And then he became like a dictator with the tassels on his shoulders, which I love that. I love the tassels on the leather jacket. That was great. Very very dictatorish of him. If we were to judge him on his first world title run, what the hell would we say? It was terrible.
You mean when he beat Flair originally?
When he beat Flair and then it wasn't a great world title run, right?
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I
got
mean,
screwed
it
with
was,
the Yoko stuff, and he got screwed with
it
the
was
Hogan stuff.
definitely weird time in that company too, because he
Yeah,
was.
I would say it's the same thing for Hangman. It was a really weird time. You had Punk, he was injured. Kenny Omega's out, a guy that you worked with for this title. That was a big piece of your story in AEW. It was bad timing all around. But I hope Max doesn't suffer the same consequences, because it is a turmoil time, very turmoil. Jesus, I can't think. Very tumultuous time. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
That was an even harder word there.
That was even a harder word. You know what? I had too much coffee. My brain is firing right now. So I'm just trying to get all the words out. I'm trying to get all my SAT words out today. If him and Danielson could do something for sure, but who's next? Wardlow, obviously, is going to come into play. And then who takes the title off of him?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's a great point. And, I think the one thing I don't know enough about the political, behind AEW and how it works and who's friends with who. And I don't know enough about that stuff, but I will say Hangman Page probably needed to be a little bit more shark at times during his run. Yeah. And we know who came in, right? CM Punk, the big time shark. And I do wonder, with MJF and kind of how he's dealing with that. And then the guys back there, Moxley and Danielson. And speaking of Danielson, looks like he's going to be, maybe the first real, I don't know if it's going to be for the pay-per-view, because that's still a long way out for the pay-per-view, but, or if this is going to peak in Seattle or whatever. But Danielson, looks like he's going to be next. And I think he's the perfect opponent for MJF. But I have a question for you. So on Wednesday, when Danielson ran out at the end of that match and he raised Ricky Starks' hand, did he just come directly from the hospital of seeing William
Straight from
Regal?
the hospital. He was straight
there
from the
for
hospital.
A while, man.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with William Regal. And then William Regal's like, peace out.
Peace out. I'm going back to New York. I'm out of here. See you guys later. He gave deuces and left. Here's a problem for me, right? And this is the marketer in me. Right now, who have you had as your AEW World Heavyweight Champion? You have Chris Jericho, which is a huge name in pro wrestling. Jon Moxley, another big name of the 2010s, right? CM Punk, huge name in pro wrestling. Kenny Omega, probably considered one of the greatest workers of the 2010s.
I can't wait for Wrestle Kingdom. I'm so excited.
Okay. So, and who else am I missing? Hangman Page, up and coming, the homegrown guy in AEW, because he wasn't in WWE. Did I get them all?
I think so.
Okay. Part of this is the marketing around your world title, right? And I know people don't like hearing that, but that is a reality. When you need to add prestige to your title, you need to have certain people holding that title. Why do you think Bill Goldberg won that Universal title? He was the third person to hold that title. Why?
Yeah.
Because now you could add a Bill Goldberg to that list and have the footage for the next 20, 30 years. AEW has, and listen, they've had 3 years to do this, right? And I think they've done a great job. But some of these guys, a Danielson should be on that list for them. 100%. You will run out of time eventually by just a series of events. So you have to be strategic on who you put these titles on. That's and this is all leading to Jeff Jarrett getting that World Heavyweight Championship. Jarrett. They need Jeff Jarrett on that list for great marketing. And not great. You can sell the cowboy hat with the world title logo on it. You can sell the guitar with the world title logo on it. But you know what I mean? Like you're gonna need to put some of these guys in that title picture. Same thing goes for Ring of Honor. Chris Jericho having that title was not for you and me. It wasn't them doing a favor for Chris. It was, wow, we're trying to get a TV deal here. We're trying to bring prestige to this company that a lot of people don't know about other than a hardcore wrestling fan. How do we do that? Here's Chris Jericho. Put the title on him. Here's Claudio, WWE guy. Put the title on him. Some of this is necessary. I'm not saying it in a negative way, but on the AEW side, when you have Max with that title now, you can't let it be a short run, because you want him to have success with it, but you also have to realize the amount of time you have with certain talent on your roster and to do something with them in that picture. Man, how much would you love to see a Malachi feud?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the lights don't go out during every match, I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, you'll be fine with it. There you go. And then Sabu comes out. There you go. I'm still waiting for that. They need. Where is Sabu? The lights go out automatically. I'm thinking he's going to show up like this.
Yeah. Okay, 2 quick ones before we get out of here, and then let people go about their day. Actually, they're not going to go about their day because they're going to watch Lance and Brian after this. There's, I think, who else? Someone else is with them. Is it just? No, it's not Brian actually because Brian's gone. It's Lance. Lance and did he made a tweet about this? I think here. Let me make sure that I can find this. It is Lance and Vinny and Craig.
Oh,
nice. Okay.
That's a nice.
Here we go.
That's a nice show.
I screwed up. They're not even
Lance,
after
Vinny,
us.
and Craig show. Oh, okay.
They're not after us today. I think this is the Brian and Vinny show, and Lance is taking Brian's spot in the Brian and Vinny show. So I think that is.
I hope he yells at all of them there.
He better.
Yeah. Monday Night Raw ratings came out, Garrett.
And
1.7 million. It went up.
So better show for sure, I thought.
Number 7 in cable for 18 to 49. They did a 0.43 for 1849. Not bad.
Yeah, because the last couple weeks were not too great.
Yeah.
Okay. Last 2 questions for you here, and then we'll get out of here. Thoughts on Action Andretti beating Chris Jericho in the upset of the decade?
Very cool stuff. I love seeing stuff like that. They just made that kid's career. He went from, I think he was an MCW. He was the MCW champion, Maryland Championship Wrestling. A lot of good guys have come out of there. My buddy Josh, he's a huge fan of theirs. Listen, man, he's a good-looking kid. He's a good-looking guy, good body on him. Worked really good with Chris. You want to create moments like that. A very unique opportunity to create a moment like that because top guys generally don't want to lose to a guy like him that nobody's ever heard of. You put him on national television in front of 1 million people, and he beat one of the greatest of all time. You got a story there for sure. It worked for X-Pac.
It did work for X-Pac. But here's a question. Okay, because I enjoyed the moment. I thought it was a very cool moment. What are they going to follow up with?
I don't know. That's a whole separate.
Well, because that's why, like, to me, I can't really define it as a success if, in 2 months he's going to be wrestling on Dark, right? Like, I want to see them. Like, let's really make this guy star. Let's see, is he going to win the All Atlantic Championship, or is he going to beat another? That's what I want to see, because.
Or
then, let's
all
really
he could do is beat Chris Jericho.
Just
all he knows is to do. Yeah, like you could do the Holly Holmes thing. You could do that Holly Holmes Ronda Rousey thing, where like this guy has studied every move Chris makes. He has studied him from the time that he was a child, and he's the only one that he could beat. He can't beat anybody else. He goes up, he beat Chris Jericho. Okay, he's going to go up against another world champion. Loses. Chris goes, hi, you see, you're a loser. Goes in a ring, 10-minute match, 15-minute match, loses. Chris Jericho loses to him. He just can't beat this kid. You know what? That's a good idea. I like that. I'm into hilarious. It. I'm into my own idea. It made me pop.
I like it. Okay, last thing. Lots of people are very intrigued about Sasha Banks going to the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom. To show up. Who knows what she's going to do. But just this idea that someone who is a WWE-made star came through the ranks, NXT, WWE. She leaves this year unhappy with what's going on. They seemingly don't freeze her contract, which I'm still not 100% sure that I understand what happened there. And now she's going to be doing dates for New Japan. What does this mean for her future? Like, what are you hearing anything about this? Do you have any thoughts on Sasha Banks and her current wrestling career?
I've heard very little about Sasha. I mean, I had heard when she was released, or they let her out of her contract when Raj reported it. It was I was able to confirm exactly what he heard. So Raj was 100% correct from Wrestling Inc. Yeah. I find it very interesting. Listen, she's a wrestling fan. She's not there just to become a celebrity. She's very talented, and she will probably become very successful outside of wrestling too. But I would love to see her in Japan because that division needs something, right? It needs that Western crossover, just like how Chris Jericho did for them and the Bullet Club did for them. I think Sasha being there with the women's division and working with them is great. And it's up her alley, right? It's something that she's going to enjoy doing. But the big question is, does she go to AEW and is she Paige's or Soraya's tag partner?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big story here. Whether or not on January 11th, she is the tag partner. Because if she is, will this be another Punk moment for AEW where, you got a big name for a division that needs big names? You got Saraya,
it would be tremendous.
Got Britt Baker, you got Tony Storm, you have, Sasha if she goes there. You're building this. Jamie Hayter, that's coming up. You're building this now with established names and established people that you recognize when you're channel surfing. And part of that game is that. You put on TBS and all of a sudden, oh, I know her. What is she doing here? This isn't WWE, and then you stick around.
Okay,
I think she's too young to retire from wrestling, and I don't see this WWE thing working out. Anything could happen, obviously, but what do you think?
Okay, so
curious.
Well, the thing that I'm kind of wondering about is this was they were just far apart on her value and the money that they were going to have to pay her. And Dave wrote in the Observer, they don't see her like Becky, they don't see her like Charlotte. But unless you were like $1 million off per year, why wouldn't you just invest in her and just keep her on your side? And maybe you have to bump the pay of some of the other women in her, in her category, unless the demands were crazy and we don't know what they were, or that she's already created a precedent of being able to walk out on them. And if they give her what she wants, then they're, then that shows other talent how to do it and how to get their way. Maybe that could be some of it, but I just don't understand WWE being as rich as they are, like being that, I don't know, being that hard on her for wanting a few extra bucks. Like, I don't know, man. It just seems like you're allowing something to happen that they shouldn't let happen, right? They have the money to sign everybody, and now they do. Possibly creating a moment for AEW.
But what's your ROI? That's how they see it. Remember, a year ago, they started doing that thing where they evaluate your value based on, social pop ratings. They have like this whole formula on your essentially how they determine. It's not like, hey, I want $100,000, just throw a number, and Vince looks, he's like, I don't think you're worth 100 there. I think you're more like 75. It's more than that. Also, her management team is involved in the negotiations too, right? She's not just sitting there by herself. She has an agent. She has this. She has that. A lot of the muddiness comes from that also. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but when you look at, why can't they just give her, whatever that money is? Maybe they're just, they don't see the value in her, which I don't know how you don't, but they know better than I do. I don't know what that number was that she wanted.
I feel
maybe
like
they don't. Maybe they don't know.
They're just letting history repeat itself, and they're going to lose her.
Would Sasha bring 200,000 more people to AEW?
Probably not, but it just creates that moment, right? And WWE is all about creating moments, and they're just creating the moment for the other company. If it happens, we don't know. We don't know if that's happening.
Sasha's 3 years younger than Bianca and 6 years younger than Charlotte.
That's worth something.
Yeah, that is worth something. She's a great young talent in that company that's been there, that's in their system, and they're willing to let her go. There's something there.
She's 30, according to Wikipedia.
Wow. Yeah, she has as long as she wants still in her career. This is her prime.
Yeah.
But Garrett, they handled her really weird the last couple of years also.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she's shown. She has shown that she understands her value, maybe more so than some of the other talent who won't create the same discomfort in the company, right? Like she's standing up for herself, and whether you agree with how she did it or not, like that's besides the point. She seemingly sees herself as what they want everyone to see themselves as, which is a star, and that came back to bite them a little bit.
They do have. Do we have like a little overrun today, Garrett?
I don't.
I'm
guessing Lance is not doing the show because he's not doing it with Brian, and so I think we're okay. No one has told me that. I mean, if we're not, I'm sure we'll get a DM here in a second.
I'm sure we will. We could go like a minute or two if you want.
Yeah,
Like, look at the Mandy Rose situation, right? Look
Yes.
at the Mandy Rose situation. She was not a high paid person there, and the majority of the women in that company are not paid that much compared to the men. Now, there's metrics obviously that come at play. It's not a misogynist thing that I'm bringing up. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm just going based on evaluating a metrics and draw your ability to draw. But Mandy Rose, she made more money in one day than she did her year of her WWE salary after she was released.
Mm-hmm.
That's embarrassing if I'm the company. I would be embarrassed by that. You mean to tell me that you invest all this time and effort, and she's a big national, on national TV, and she has to go and subsidize the income with a side job that you end up firing her, and then you find out that she made more money with that side job than all year working for you? I mean, if I was WWE, I'd be like, listen, there's a problem here.
All crossover fans too, right? They have to be all crossover fans. Yeah, 100%.
And they're willing to give the money. There's a market, right? So she is a star to some extent.
Yeah.
I find it very fascinating, their structure with this. But, Sasha Banks, listen, you opened up $250,000 at least with Mandy Rose. I mean, maybe you could come back and renegotiate. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
I don't know. Very
maybe
strange.
They come back to the bargaining table. But at the same time, maybe she doesn't have the same people behind her. I always thought that she and Triple H seemed like Triple H really, would go to bat for her. But maybe that relationship isn't what
for who,
it
Sasha?
like. Yeah,
I think the way that it played out affected a lot of the friendliness.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah,
especially because he's now has a bigger role there. So
yeah, and you also have to make an example. You can't be the guy that everybody comes running back to, and you give them everything you want. Also,
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going through his head, but he has a lot on his plate right now.
Absolutely.
Matt Riddle suspended, or not.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah, no, it's big. It's crazy stuff, man. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and but like we said, that there's a lot of positive things going on as well. So I just hope that Vince isn't doing any shenanigans to try and get back, because he does too many
mustache. And...
if he tries too hard, we may start to see all kinds of other stuff come out through the Wall Street Journal. Like, man,
you know what? Who is the leak? That's what I want to know. Who's calling the Wall Street Journal all the time? You know what fascinating? Little tidbit here. This was the most fascinating thing. The original report of the friend that called, right? The friend that contacted the board. To me, this stood out. It wasn't. I thought it was a female friend. The way that like the story initially sounded to me, it wasn't. It's a male that called.
Like sticking up for the woman, right?
Yeah. It was a guy that reached out over and over again.
Yeah,
not once. So I found that like another piece to this crazy situation over there.
Yeah, I think we would have already figured out who was the leak. But unfortunately, he passed away. It would have been the same guy who discovered the Undertaker versus Undertaker thing, Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen is the one. He was hot on the case.
He would have figured it out. Yeah. So
that was a plot for Naked Gun, the next Naked Gun movie.
There you go. Yeah. What a gem that guy was. All right. So let's get out of here. Happy holidays to everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us for a couple extra minutes here. I didn't get any angry DMs from Lance, so I think we're in the clear.
No.
Did you?
Well, he did say he was very concerned that I was sick, and he was sending me very nice messages all weekend.
Oh, okay,
so that was nice.
You're on the
The
good
first
side
time
right
an
now.
ECW legend, normally it's them threatening to murder me or kill me, but this is a nice one.
All right, happy holidays to everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Are we coming back next week? That's the plan. Okay,
that's the plan.
All right. So we'll be back next week. So for Andrew, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.